Welcome to everyone. I said last time that we were going to talk about shame to accompany our last video and article about breaching the inner sanctum, but that's not what I'm feeling at the moment. We should talk about so empty promises. Well, maybe we'll cycle back. I really don't know. By the way, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. I just heard some odd sounds. Okay. What I'd like to talk about is I'm not quite sure. This morning, I got a couple of emails that started me thinking. People in the stream are going through, many of us are going through some very big changes. And many of these changes seem to have a 6 or 7 year cycle associated with them. And I don't feel that it's my place to mention what those changes are. But of course, feel free to do so if you feel so inspired. But it made me start thinking about, was I going through some kind of an end of a cycle that was 6 or 7 years? And when I say 6 or 7, it's because things don't start on day 1 and end on day 7, do they? Or day 6. There's all the preparation for it. There is the moving up to it. There are some things that are like that. Let's say you're driving down the road and you get hit by a Mack truck. That's kind of an unprepared kind of a change. But if you're going to school, let's say, and you start in September, you've already been in process to get there for quite a while. And so when I ask myself what I'm going through that might have a 6 or 7 year cycle, I thought of something that does relate to us in the stream. And I'd like to discuss that with you today and see what we discover about this cycle, because I think it is about us all, especially when you hear what it is. And I believe that it started with an experience that I had with Erica. Erica and I were walking. The only time we ever did this, by the way, is we took the dogs for a walk. And I believe it was 6 or 7 years ago. And isn't that so, Erica?
That's true.
And,
she said that's true.
And when we were walking down the street at the right close to the golf course, I turned to the right and I had a vision of a house with many steps leading up to it. Now, we were looking at houses, but it wasn't one of those. It was a complete vision that came from nowhere. And when I say it came from nowhere, it came from nowhere. We weren't talking about houses. We weren't talking about anything like, we weren't talking about visions. It just was there. And I felt really depressed. And wise. But, you know, being the obedient spiritual person that I am, I said, okay, I guess I have to move. So, and I had only lived at Streamhaven 1, which is what I'm calling the Benton House today, Streamhaven 1, our first Streamhaven. Only been there about 2 years, had just spent a fortune remodeling it, fixing the furnace and the ductwork and everything, you know, putting up the, you know, and it was like, okay, oh, well, I guess I'm supposed to move. And Erica and I, on the way back to Streamhaven, were started frantically looking for the house that I was supposed to buy. Remember? And the thing that shocked me was that when we got back to Streamhaven 1, I looked at that house, and I believe I said this to Erica. I said, I feel like I don't live here anymore. This is no longer my house. It's no longer my home. And I didn't know what I meant by that. I just knew that it was so, and we started looking for. I started shopping for houses, and I thought I was supposed to move. And we had a meeting of the stream very soon afterwards on the phone. We teleconferenced. We didn't have video conferencing then. We teleconferenced, and we all visualized the house, and everybody had a vision of what this house was. And I wasn't happy, because I love living down somewhere, first of all, that I can walk to without having to walk up a lot of steps. But it was in the trees, and this was a house perched above, and it was kind of on a hill with a view, and that is not me. I'm the cabin in the woods kind of a girl, not a grand home on a perch kind of a girl. Nevertheless, we all decided that that represented some sort of expansion for us in the stream. And after that, two things started happening. One is we started to expand by, I built the sunroom, or I had it built. I didn't build it. I just paid for it. And the sunroom that people thought I was crazy to make. And but thank God, now I'm so glad we have it, right? And so that was really a physical expansion, but also we had a sense of an expansion on another level. But the other thing that happened simultaneously is I started to get crazier than usual, and started looking for some other place. And I only put this together this morning because it was then that I went out and rented the cabin in Idlewild. And I hadn't even been thinking about Idlewild because Idlewild makes me sick because I can't handle altitudes. And of course I realized this morning when I started to put all this together that my home was no longer my home. It became the expansion for the community place. And I was desperately seeking a home of my own that I could live in while I was living inside the community, because I was losing my differentiation in the oneness, but I knew that I had to do this. And so I got the sunroom, and then rented a cabin in Idlewild, which of course I couldn't manage because I couldn't handle the altitude, and came back. And then Rich Golden's house came to us, which is the house that you're in now, Streamhaven 2, which was really an expansion. But the more the stream expanded, the less I had a home. You know, the Benton house reflected me. I mean, it was trees and green and green and green and green and green. And I remember poor Christine had to walk in the kitchen and say, "But I don't want a green kitchen." But it was too bad. She had a green kitchen, a green bedroom, green halls, I don't know, everything was green. And then when I came to this Dream Haven, of course, the one that you're sitting in, it was no longer the cabin in the woods, it was the temple. And those of you who remember not too long ago, it was purple and green, and it was very temple-like. And you all know the history of that, and you all know how crazy I was during this time trying to figure out where I was supposed to be. And I remember having one night, and this is going to mean something to all of us, I'm sure. I certainly hope. I had one night when people, and I remember Rose clearly, but I know there were others of you. The first night that I spent in Streamhaven, when there was nobody there except me, I mean nobody except me, and I felt this elation, like I was the happiest I had been in years. And the streamers were so kind and so considerate that they ran and they got me some furniture that night before the movers came, so that I never had to go back to the other house, and that And I thought, oh my God, I'm home. I'm going to have this experience. But of course, that is not what happened. And then, as you know, 2 years ago, we came to Oregon, and I'm still looking for my home. And I'm thinking I'm crazy. But I got it this morning. I really understood why I got depressed, because in this moment of expansion was the loss of my home and my center as I was going through that process. And I think it came back this morning when we did life force, as we brought our fists down, the closed fist that came down to the groin area, and I could feel that energy coming back. And I mean, it is my fond hope that I actually get energy coming back into my body. But you know, we're all pawns in the cosmic game of evolution, and we have to play our part, even if we don't like it a lot of the time. And because what occurs to me now is that expansion doesn't mean a bigger house with a bigger room. It means more bandwidth. And that's the difference, because we are still expanding, but we are expanding on the invisible plane rather than in the concrete material way that we've known expansion to be. And that in the old days, which was like yesterday, right? In our world, yesterday was the old days. Tomorrow is the distant future. And today is the dreaded present. So is that we don't need the big house on the hill anymore with a big room, because we have to have expanded bandwidth, which is what we are working on at Streamhaven 1, that the Bentons can actually have a home that they live in and that people can come to, but that they're not going to be morphed into the generic we the way I was. That is fondly to be hoped. And that James walked into also. And I say this without any regret whatsoever, because putting it in these terms, it's so positive that we can see that this was a great expansion for us. And for me as well, even though I seem to be, suffering, during this process, but it was only 6 or 7 years. And we don't know what's going to happen next, but certainly when we came to Oregon and when we bought the cabin in Idlewild, which we had to then give up 3 months later, I'm looking for a home base for me in the context of oneness. And this is what we're doing through the internet, is that we are not alone. We are in that context of oneness, and we are able to be so much more ourselves because we can do this. We have so many ways of connecting that we never had before. So it is a different way of seeing expansion. And so much of how we have seen expansion has been ego-based anyway. Oh, I'm going to expand the company, which means that instead of having 2 really competent people, I'm going to have 100 really incompetent employees. Or instead of having 5 really good clients, I'm going to have 1,000 really weak ones. But that's expansion, and our egos think that there's something really good about that. Or that I'm going to have the bigger house when I don't really need it. Now, of course, we did need the bigger house during those years. And if we ever do need one again, it will happen. But expansion, of course, is not any of those things. Those things are the means through which we can realize that expansion. And that can be true of a relationship as well. My expansion in the context of oneness, which is the expansion of the whole, may require certain relationships. Now, for example, I'm not talking about my relationship with James. By all means, my relationship with James has been part of my expansion. But the cycle that he is completing his 6 or 7 year cycle is that may I say this?
Sure.
That his daughter was 21 7 years ago, and he's still struggling with letting her be her own person. And his relationship with her was part of his expansion of a human being, as a human being, but that is a means for that expansion. It doesn't mean he has to maintain that relationship in a certain form in order for him to be expanded. It was a means for him to expand. And I know many of you are going through changes in your relationships where that relationship has been a tremendous asset for your expansion. It has been a way of expanding. A relationship with a job, for example, as well as a roommate or a husband or anything else, or a job. And that has been the means through which you expand, but it is not the expansion itself. And we, in our human dimension, or our human dementia, have a tendency to confuse the thing with its purpose and hang on to the thing long after it has served its purpose. Now, what is so frightening about letting go of the thing that we have used? Remember, when we entered into that thing, we were just as lost and scared as we are now as we're letting it go. That which now feels like our security blanket in some way because it's familiar was at one time unfamiliar and equally scary, if not more so, because we were less mature. So it is our human minds that make that association, and that we lose track of the very thing that we are really achieving, which is our own evolution in the context of the evolution of the planet. And you know, with technology changing as quickly as it does, it is extremely difficult to hang on to anything as a symbol of anything, because by the time you have finished getting the latest and greatest, it's already obsolete and passé. And you say, but I just adjusted to using a laptop or a tablet, and now it's a winky dink that I'm supposed to use. And I hate that because my poor brain can't even keep track. And God forbid you have invested heavily in whatever it was that's yesterday's news. Because today's entrepreneurs are tomorrow's finished, washed up, wiped out.
Unless they adapt and evolve, right?
Unless they adapt and evolve. So what I'd like you to do right now is to ask yourself, what is the expansion that you are going through? And what is the cycle that is coming to a close for you? And can you let go of that desperate need to cling to whatever gave you growth yesterday, like kindergarten or the first grade, and feel the joy and excitement of moving towards another level of expansion, and I would like to believe that finding my cabin in the woods again, of the smaller place that actually I can see all the walls. I don't mean that literally. That would be a really small place. But that kind of feeling that even though it looks like I'm losing the big, that there's many levels of expansion that I'm going through. And the same is true for you. So if you identify with what I'm saying and you feel called, please speak now and share with us.
I've been identifying the whole time you're talking. And when at first you said 7-year cycle, I was like, there's nothing happening in 2007, but I mean 2007. But there are a few things that go along with this theme. One is that, as everybody knows, because they've heard every trial and tribulation about one of my clients that I'm now working on less and less, that has been a great growth vehicle for me, especially dealing with like everyday ups and downs. And I mean, I'm still working on that, but it's just a portion. I don't feel invested at all in it and just do my job there. And there's another client that I had for about a year and a half that just pulled all their resources in-house, so they're not going to be my client anymore. But, you know, having had great things to say about us, they just don't have money. Um, and that was also a vehicle for my growth. One of the things I noticed is that a year ago when I lost a client, even though it didn't have anything to do with me, I had a nervous breakdown. And this time on Thursday, I lost a client and it didn't have anything to do with me. I was like, okay. I totally get it. We felt great. She had such great things to say to me and really appreciated my honesty and transparency. She felt it was rare in a partner. And I felt great. And it felt right. And then I just found out that the next day that I'm being put on account for the California Earthquake Authority, which is completely different than tech PR.
Wow.
And I just had this realization, like, I was so excited. My boss was like, I hope it's okay. I volunteered you for the California Earthquake Authority since you have a little time. I was like, yeah, that sounds like fun, you know? Like, oh my gosh, I love it because it's different. And it dawned on me that there's a world outside of tech PR. Like, I won't have to write something with the word innovative in it, you know? Or, you know, trying to prove that it's the next doodad best thing. It could just be like some type of, I'm sure it's like a public education type of thing. And I'm so excited. So I think that is one transition that's happening, an expansion beyond the tiny but very profitable world of tech PR that I've liked because, you know, it makes a lot of money.
Well, it sounds
And
like so much of this cycling for you, Christine, is about, it's not about me.
it's not about me. No, it's not.
That is so much of what that cycle that's coming to a close
Yeah,
is.
yeah, yeah,
I love that.
yes. The other cycle, there's two other cycles.
Gordy, I was just checking up here to find out how things turned out last night.
What was that?
I think that was somebody else's radio. Yeah, he's changing.
I just did.
Todd just muted him. And then another cycle is, it's not 7 or 6 years that we moved into the house.
Hold on a second.
Okay.
The thing about it's not about me means that if I have a rich and powerful client, it isn't about me either.
Right. No.
That's the other side of the it's not about me. So when you are no longer, so much of that client represented ego for you. I get to be in this, this international. Yeah. So I'm just trying to draw those lessons a little bit clearer because that is fantastic because there are the two sides. If it's about me, is I have all the pain when it doesn't work out and I have all the puff just by being associated.
Yeah, I have no pleasure of being associated whatsoever. I just do my job. And I was saying it's not like 6 or 7 year cycle that we moved in the house, Stream Haven one, but I feel like we've taken more ownership of it and at the same time opened it up. You know, I think that putting in the recessed lighting and changing the paint in the kitchen really represented something. And I was like paranoid about changing the paint color as though I couldn't change it back again. but it was like an ownership that we have this home. We are the owners. We are responsible for this place. And I think that, also bringing the horse in, I mean, there are many things that that represented, but you had once asked me if you felt that she was my spirit. And I think bringing her in is like, I'm here now. I'm here fully.
Yeah.
All of me.
Yeah.
And then the final thing is that Luke is 7 years old. And I have no baby, except for Aunt. She is my baby doggy, but you know what I mean? It's like, they're not grown, obviously. They're not grown, but they're home alone right now. And I don't worry about it. They are not babies. And that's a real feeling of freedom too. And a change. Yeah. Yay! So I can expand in other ways because I have less, I have to, it's different raising a baby than a 7-year-old. So, yeah.
Yeah. I'd like to share next. Yesterday, I received a letter from my daughter who just turned 28. And she sent that letter the day before her birthday. And this letter represented a shift in our relationship where she was recognizing that I was treating her that in a way that was for the first time in a full way, saying that you're on your own. Don't keep looking to me to support you or Beth. And for Beth or I to support you. And what was interesting here for me is that ever since she was born, I transferred a lot of my creativity, my desire for creative self-expression to her. And I really merged with her. She wanted to go into the performing arts with the music, the singing, the dancing, the acting, all of that stuff. And I had composed a lot of music and been very, very involved in music, but I kind of stopped doing much of that. And in recent times, even when 7 years ago she turned 21, I thought, oh, good, now she's an adult and now she can be more independent. But she was drug addicted and she was dysfunctional. And I was merged with her still. And so I didn't want to let go of her. I didn't want to let go of the role of being the good father who was constantly demonstrating my love for her by saving her from the consequences of her actions. Bad consequences, like winding up in jail and stuff like that. And giving her support where she'd plead that she didn't have money for food and that kind of stuff, which turned out to be not true, but it enabled her to have some cash to get the drug of her choice, stuff like that. So it was not a real healthy 7-year cycle of continuing to treat her like my child, the one that I needed to express through. And instead of focusing on my own self-perfecting, I was focusing on perfecting her and her creative self-expression and all the rest. And lately, I've been really declaring my independence from her. And her letter to me that we received yesterday was recognizing that. And she was kind of upset, a little bit, very upset. But this is a step toward her liberation and mine. Detaching from the merging that I've been having with her, even during the last 7 years, supposedly came of age. And now, by God, she has to deal with things on her own, much more on her own. And I have to take more accountability for my life, for my self-expression. And so that's the big shift for me.
Carol.
Hi.
You can talk in the phone.
We hear Bella really well.
Yeah, Bella's pretty good, huh?
Tell her that she goes.
Okay, if I
Carol, you didn't have to move. Right now, we can't see you at all, and we could hear things okay earlier where you were.
Okay. How's that?
Good.
Yeah.
Anything? Okay.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I've had a transformational experience of giving up, and coming out better than it was before. We lost our house because we invested all the value of it in trying to support my plastic surgery practice. It was, flailing because of the economy. And the economy didn't work well for us. And we moved into a lovely place which serves us much better, which is rent. We don't have any ownership of it, any accountability for it in other ways. I changed my practice to joining a group of people with whom I was incompatible and psychologically and, in principle. And they finally left. So that group is now dissolved, and I'm practicing very much less surgery, but I have a lovely associate who is a great person, a good friend, and makes me be able to play doing what I love doing without having to count on it for survival. And, giving up has been really helpful. That's really what I'm trying to say. Yeah. So it's a very powerful tool. If you feel like you're being forced, it's one thing. But if you can see that it's a gift, sometimes it's another thing.
I think that's, yeah, I have nothing to add. Harold said it very well.
So it's been a cycle, a long cycle of release of all the things you thought you needed to have to be you. And finding that when you've let go of all of those, you are more you. That's lovely. Thank you so much. Chris. Chris raised her hand, and then I saw you, Elizabeth. So let's have Chris, and then please, Elizabeth, right afterwards.
Thanks. Can you guys hear me all right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good. So besides the obvious, letting go of the store.
But not everybody knows that, so you should say that.
Well, we have owned a hardware store that we officially opened 5.5 years ago, and we started we started the process about 7 years ago. And my husband and I have put a significant amount of our retirement into it, and borrowed money from my mom, and it's just gone. And it's been really painful for me, mostly, to see my husband struggling so much. That's just painful, on a personal level. And then from an ego perspective, I fancied myself really smart and a very savvy businesswoman and knew what to do with money. And so all of this money being gone has been a hard thing for me to come to terms with. Probably kind of similar to James and his daughter. How do you it's hard to come to terms with this image of myself I've had in this reality. But the beauty that's come out of it is that my husband and I, Carrie, are very, very close. And the biggest struggle really that we've had over the past, probably decade in our marriage is me being so committed to the stream and him not. And when I met him, he was doing work with Beth in an earlier version of the stream, and he's since stopped. So the beauty of the outcome of all of this is that I finally feel like we have this stream in our family and in our home. really I have what I always wanted finally. And I was watching everyone get organized today, and when you're remote, you get a little different perspective of the whole thing. And I was thinking, what happened to me that over the past 6 years I stopped showing up and helping so much. So I think I wanted my marriage more than I wanted sleep. And I was afraid really I couldn't do both. So that's all.
Sorry, what was the last thing? Did anyone hear what she said?
No.
No.
Right after you
I
said
think
that,
I was-
what happened?
I think I was afraid that I couldn't have my marriage and be really involved in the street.
And your
couldn't have both.
spirituality. You couldn't have
Right.
your marriage and yourself, really, because it's not about the stream, it's about yourself, your own spirituality.
Yeah. Yeah. So you can't see my face for some reason, it's frozen, but I don't have that sad look anymore. I'm smiling. Yeah, and so now I know I can have both. And I don't have to choose. And I feel like a huge weight has been lifted off my chest. I don't really have that much more to say, and I just need to get some Kleenex.
She needs.
Well said.
I think it's more appropriate I go after Chris now because I relate to her coming into her own spirituality. The cycle for me was I left Indiana, where I was born and raised 7 years ago.
Oh, wow.
And there's just been so much change that has happened in my life and within me and just people that are in my life and just the view of myself and how I love myself. My perception of my own self is just no comparison. And just how that's opened up relationships in my life. I'm sure there's more to it, but that's the main thing that was coming to me.
It's ironic. Sometimes we have to leave home in order to find home.
Yeah.
I feel like my 7-year-old cycle was similar. 7 years ago, I think, was the first time, Beth, that you challenged me that I really didn't have a partner in the man I was living with. And
Yes.
and that was the beginning of a struggle to force him to become the partner I wanted. And then finally, you rescued me from that struggle and suggested that I could leave that struggle. And I then lived with a roommate who helped me realize who I was. In other words, I think for me, the Indiana was not knowing myself. And I think living with Erica has let me see so much of who I am more. and because it's only in struggling for partnership that I could see myself and make the changes that I need to make, and then realize that really what I think 7 years ago, I was feeling like what I needed was safety. And that meant I could dominate whatever situation I was in. And now what I'm seeing is that what I need is connection, and that I need to listen and engage in whatever situation I'm in. And that's been a huge relief.
And what about now?
What about now? I'm exploring who I want to live with as a partner, and going towards that with a totally different experience of what's going to support me to expose my inner sanctum, and how ready is that person to do that also and be on that journey with me.
So your example is a perfect one of showing how someone and a relationship can be a means for your expansion and evolution. And yet you don't have to stay clung to that form as being, okay, well, that's the only way that I can have that experience. That you know, each transition is a transition to the next transition. Like each teacher may come to you, and that teacher may be there for a day, a year, or forever.
Yes.
Hi. Well, 12 days, it'll be 7 years that Helen and I met. Mm-hmm. And and it happened to be on Valentine's Day, coincidentally. And that's led to amazing transformation and amazing conflict, and internal as well as external for each of us, I think. And what I'm realizing is that each of us came to our marriage with one child, and mine at the time was 10. He's now 17. He's going to graduate from high school, I think, at the end of this year, unless he fails a class, but I hope not. And the other child was Rebecca, who was 17, almost 18 at the time. And she's now, or she will be 25 in just a couple of days, literally, and is at a different point, a significant point in terms of her own personhood and what the rest of her life will bring. That's my perception anyway. And then there's Helen and myself, who, well, the word supported came to mind, who have supported each other and worked hard at a lot of different issues. And I'm just wondering if at this time this isn't somehow the end of our 7-year cycle too, because it just seems like, I'm looking out the window and I'm seeing those trees, and I was going to say it's like the handwriting on the wall. It just, I don't know. And of course I have a lot of different feelings about that, but putting it in this perspective makes it, doesn't make it okay exactly, but it makes it what it is. It makes it acceptable, and like, it's not me, I didn't screw up, I fucked up again. There's not that there. it's that we each learned a lot from this, and maybe this is the time for us to separate and go different ways. So, and I honestly didn't think I was going to say a word about that this morning, because this has only transpired in the last couple of days. But it just seemed right to do it. So, kind of like somebody said something about hiding. Was it you, Irene? I don't know. Somebody said Chris. Oh, it was maybe that was. Well, I don't need to hide this. You know, it's the reality of it. I don't need to feel shame about it. You know, like is my standard of operation. Being the shame-based person I am, but you know, I don't have to let it cripple me like it has in the past. So, thank you.
Thank you, Richard. You know, I was kind of hoping and expecting that we would come back to shame and the connection between that and the expansion and the cycle, because what you said, Richard, is so profoundly important, which is that if we stop feeling shame, we just see the learning, and we get that this period in our lives had a purpose, rather than looking back on the struggle and saying, oh, I have to hide that, or saying I failed. It's kind of like why I was clarifying Christine's thing. It's not about me. It doesn't make me a more socially acceptable, valuable person to be married or to have an engagement ring on my finger. And it doesn't make me any less valuable to not be married. None of that means anything. That our expansion, this may be exactly a time for you to expand in a different direction, but that you've gotten so much from the relationship that it has brought you to a place that you can go and take that next step, whereas you wouldn't have been able to do that before. And that's what Irene's example brought us, about maybe she and Erica are not meant to be together now, but without that experience with Erica, where she wouldn't be here to be able to move on and try that next experience. And to be able to see things truly as evolution, we let go of the shame that cripples us, as Richard said, and gives us the opportunity to really be more neutral about what it is that we are meant to do, that there are no failures. It is, I kept thinking of the line about the earthquakes, since Christine is going to be in the earthquake business, PR business. I don't know. That I know I've shared this with you, but this was back in maybe '83 when I was in my very first house where I had the stream. It was a tiny house. We were in the bonus room in the garage. And it's the same lawn furniture that we have out there at Street Haven today that has remained the same, but that was the inside furniture for the stream. That was the furniture that I bought for us to do our groups and workshops. And I know that Erica came to that house. And one day, God said, and this right after God had announced that, everything is evolving and God is changing. And we were letting go of the idea of the perfect God, and we were really beginning to absorb the idea of evolution. That God said to me, Beth, it is through the earth's fault that it evolves. That it is the fault lines that create the space for change to take place. Now, we don't like earthquakes in our lives because we are human. However, it is through our faults that we evolve. Through God's faults that God evolves. Through all faults, because perfection cannot evolve. And I feel very excited about the way this discussion is going, because I'm hoping that one of the biggest changes that is coming through these 7-year cycles is to let go of regret and to deepen our love for evolution and our appreciation for it. And that is the way we let go of shame. Because it's not a shame. When people give you sympathy for something, which is really evolutionary, they are burying you. Oh, you're breaking up with so-and-so. That's a shame. What's the shame? Which shame is that? So-and-so died. Oh, what a shame. It's something that's forcing the next step of evolution, or it is something that is a reflection of the next step of evolution. And what makes it so difficult is when something happens like the unexpected death of a child, which can totally tear people apart, is that they're or even expected but that they can't handle, or it's, you know, like Chris's example with the store of letting go of something, is that it's our difficulty in shifting gears and absorbing the message and seeing the gift that makes it so terribly more painful than it has to be. It's like people who go through major trauma about a divorce that should have happened 20 years ago. And then they use it forevermore as an excuse not to evolve. I was so traumatized by the fact that Harvey left, even though I knew for 5 years that he was having an affair. So this is wonderful, to be able to shift, and not to say we will not have pain and that's normal. It is that we will not dwell on it as our home. Our home base is our pain and our shame, rather than our home base being expansion and evolution. Would anyone else care to share? Yes. Oh, really?
Yeah, I just want to acknowledge that Tracy is psychic, because I think one of the quotes she has coming up on your Facebook page is something about the way to overcome our shame is to put more value on our evolution than our achievements. Isn't that it, Tracy?
Did I say that?
Yeah.
It's going to be, she's got it lined up to post in the next couple days.
Is it? Did you do that last month?
You said it.
She did that last month too. Yes,
or the last service.
Where is that from, by the way? Where
What's
is that?
Spiritual service or what?
No, the thing about to focus on our whatever it was. Where was that from?
It was either the spiritual service or CBC from last month.
Oh, I said that? God, I wish I would listen to myself sometimes.
Good idea.
Well, what can you do when you have higher consciousness than you really have? It's just will.
Well, I have to say that feeling of losing the big. 7 years ago, I knew it all, had it all, and today I'm living well, and I'm not as well off by those standards. But it really comes back to the trying to keep it up was reversing my ability to evolve. I was so holding on to those standards or life purpose. I said, I've done it all. Just got back from Europe, Utopia. I'm your answer man, the go-to guy. And then I'm living every stage of reversing back to, I got the same issues I had before. But when you reinvent yourself like I'm presently doing, boy, does the memory catch the wrong turns you made 7 years ago. And that's what I want to thank you for. I'm educating myself from my own mistakes, and I'm not ashamed about it. And when people say, well, you haven't done this, you haven't achieved that. And I said, well, It's going to come, but I need more something, and I'm still learning it. I apologize for not having to be the answer man for many years, and now I just simply say, help me, and I get help. Not doing it alone was a big move too. So I'm comfortable with this learning and evolving as much as the stream has invited me to get. This last year's popped a lot of things.
I love that.
That's it.
It's the evolution from being the answer man to being the question man.
Lone Ranger to doing it together.
Hey, we had a book study group this week for Healing of God, and it was so apropos because I've been crazy all week, you know, because of the whole discussion with Irene and facing another huge change. Today is actually the 6-year anniversary of my cardiac arrest, where Beth and many of you helped me to stay on the planet. So, talk about anniversaries. This is another big one. And surviving last year and rebuilding myself to the point where it's all evolution. But I brought the book up because I wanted to bring one of the stories that, I don't want to read the whole thing, but the story of 40 souls in the Himalayas, high in the Himalayas. And one was dying, and he says, I am not satisfied with our ways and our stability. There is something more. And as crazy as I was this week, I needed to really just settle into, did we in fact choose to take the evolutionary path of conflict, to bring us from integration to disintegration, to reintegration, to disintegration, to new levels of integration? What do you think? So it had all the information, including some wonderful things from Becoming in our book study this week and last week. And I think if Helen hadn't worked on me on Friday and just really integrated my energy and my thinking, you know, I really got a working over. But I came out so much more sane. I was able to just immediately take Helen's direction and say to Irene, I want you to be happy, you know, and whatever you need to be that, I will help you. If I need to help you pack, find a place, I want to be happy too. And that's the support that we needed to offer each other.
Yeah.
You know, because we have a great place to live. It all works. The cats love each other and yada, yada, yada. You know, it works. It looks great from the outside, but it's time to change. And that's all there is to it. It's just time to change. You know, whatever that change is represented by, whether it's moving or standing on my head or whatever. You know, I think if I can come back from death a couple times, I can survive a few more moves. You know? So, you know, whatever uncertainty looks like financially or relationship-wise or any of that, you know, you're right about don't take on the shame. Because that's just another ego ploy, really. Done that way too many times. Too much shame. Bullshit. So, I welcome whatever's coming next. It might be living with Bob and Carol. It might be finding a new roommate. I don't know, but I'm a lot less afraid of the not knowing. So, thanks.
And you look marvelous, darling.
Thank you, darling.
Wow. Boy, is there a lot of change. Chris?
So the one open question is whether or not we'll be able to keep our house because the bank has a second on it, blah, blah, blah. And I just want to say that after, going through all this transformational experience this morning, I feel totally ready to let it go if that's supposed to happen.
Yes.
I don't care.
Yes.
Thanks.
Keep closer.
Sometimes change looks like staying in the same place but being different in that place. And sometimes change means we have to get our asses from where we are and go somewhere else. And they both represent change if we are really changing. Yes. Pat.
Hi. 7 years ago, I founded Benton Consulting Group, which was supposed to be a business consulting company doing mission control and consulting business owners and teaching them how to grow their business. I laugh now, like, what the hell was I thinking? So it's nice to look back and go, okay, that's over. Like, done with that phase. So now I'm a farmer and I have a horse and I do web design, like part-time, and try and not be an angry father to my children. I mean, some things change, some things take longer to change. No, but I think the phase I'm moving into is just being more free to be myself, not try and live up to some image of what I thought I should be. And it's been a slow process, but I really feel more at ease and really at home in kind of who I've become. Yeah, yesterday we had our family program, and it was great. It was great. We were really real about, we don't have it all together as far as how we interact with our kids. And our yoga teacher was there. She's someone I kind of look up to, but have wanted to introduce to the stream. And she came with her boyfriend and her 2 kids, and they had a great time. And so I just feel, and they loved our home and the whole environment here of the stream. And she said she wants to come back, and so it's just really cool and I think that came out of just me being me, not trying to impress, but offering what I have. I did their website and did it in trade, and that felt right to offer that, and so that's kind of the new me.
Yay! Yay!
There's that expression, the more things change, the more they stay the same. Well, it's not true.
Yes.
It's never the
Tom,
same.
did you
You
leave
never
this?
step into the same stream twice.
That's right.
Okay.
Okay, well, I have 2 things. One is I was trying to think, when did I first come to the stream? So I'll just say it was 7 years ago, because I really don't remember. No, I've been here before that. Yeah,
Yes.
probably that.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, it was over at Stream Haven 1 that I met you.
Yeah, right. And it was kind of a false start, you could say. But I did what I needed to do. It didn't come in a nice straight line, but it turned out I wasn't being treated with the right medicine, and I was kind of out of control. And you and I both realized that until that changed, I really couldn't participate.
Yeah.
And my sister, with whom I'm not particularly close, pointed out what wasn't working. And she said, do you know that you do this, this, and this? And I thought, well, yeah, of course. And then I thought, maybe not, of course. Maybe there's something that's not right. And she told me to tell my doctor about those things. And she said, oh, totally different story. Change the meds. And then I could participate. I mean, I lost jobs over my volatility. It just seemed like there was nowhere to go. And then in the time frame since coming here approximately, I went from not knowing anybody. I still remember when you asked who in the room saved you. And I looked at Helen and I thought, you're the only one. And you're the only one I know. And I don't know when that started to change. And I feel like still very young in terms of starting to have relationships with people. But so that's a major shift. And the other one is my job changed. I thought maybe similar to you, Todd, that I was supposed to be a physician. I hated it. I lost jobs partially because of my volatility and partially because I couldn't handle it. And I found a job doing insurance physicals. And so many people said, oh, you do that when you're retired, or anybody could do that, an intern could do that. What are you doing that for? And I found that I loved it. I loved the slow pace. I loved going to people's homes, making them feel relaxed. And I thought, what am I apologizing for? And then, unfortunately, that started to dry up. And then someone else told me about another job that also suited fairly well. And it was kind of funny because I met him through playing the harp. And he says he likes to make connections. So he gave me a place to play my harp. He found another place that wanted me to play for them. And then a year later, he says, there's such and such a job. You might want to check it out. That dovetailed with when the other one started disappearing. So anyway, it just seems like music and medicine have made all kinds of connections that I could never have predicted that allowed me to leave doing patient care, which I just hated. And what's fun now is when I see people in their homes, they say, oh, I wish you were my doctor. And I take that as a compliment, but there's no way in hell that's going to happen. So thank you, and thank all of you here. You made it possible for me to come out of hiding.
Lovely. That's beautiful. Amy's one thought that just came to me, which is also part of the shift in the ego, is that you thought that your connection with medicine was that you were supposed to give it, but actually you were supposed to take it. And we, in our egos, we're always thinking we're supposed to be the teacher when we're actually supposed to be the student.
Yeah. And I have to admit, I have to let go of a lot of shame about why did I go to med school and spend all that money, all that time, and all those years. So I have to let go of shame about that.
Well, you're doing something you love to do right now. How wonderful.
But the music, you mean the
music and medicine that you're doing now.
Your medical degree gives you a great capacity to do what you do now.
Yeah.
Yeah, you mean like the insurance physical?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I can't
Well, there was, I have to tell you this. Now I know how to draw blood and all that kind of stuff. I used to, but I couldn't do it for years. And when I'd be in an office and someone would have difficulty drawing it, they'd say, oh, ask Dr. Ken. I said, you don't ask me. You haven't done this in 20 years. But now, if that happens, I say, I'm pretty good at this.
Oh, good. That's good to know. I have small hidden veins.
By the way, audio is kind of choppy and we're pretty out of sync, but it's bearable, so I didn't want to make a fuss about it. We only have 20 minutes left.
I've noticed that the whole time. And I think hopefully when we have bandwidth, it will help.
Okay, great.
Found your glasses.
Christine found my glasses.
In the front yard. I had a feeling they were there.
In the lawn. It was not Angie.
Oh. Well, I've been trying to make a list. So, what are the being that I'm letting go of? Process of becoming who I already am. And one was being in my body, not being accountable for myself, my actions, and my consciousness, being disorganized and irresponsible, not being responsible for what I can bring, not taking accountability for my body and its condition, not appreciating what I have in my life, staying alone or being a loner, feeling like I don't belong, feeling like I can't take care of myself, feeling like I am a victim,
that I have to prove that I have some value, that I am a shameful person, and that I am not lovable. And these are the ways that I see that what's happening. What are the ways that I am taking on becoming who I am already? Being in my body and taking responsibility for it. To take accountability for the impact I have. Learning to understand that being organized brings grace into my life instead of stress and needless anxiety. To bring what I have to offer in all areas of my life. To appreciate what I have in my life and share it. Feeling like I belong in the world. Being loved, by bringing what I have to offer, I can contribute to my family, Elizabeth and I. That I feel self-respect by doing the things that I respect. Feeling being loved and being able to love.
I am that. Great list. Christopher,
Yeah.
about what your 6 or 7 year cycle could be. And I'm wondering if it wasn't around 7 years ago when you first moved out of my house when I lived in Streamhaven 1 and started taking those steps towards your more wholeness.
I think that's about right. I think that's about right.
Yeah. And that is such a symbol because you were just starting that journey of becoming yourself and having to take the risk of being out there by yourself.
Right.
We are coming to the close of our service because we like to leave a little time for singing if we have any music, or making it up if we don't. But is there someone else who needs to share before we close this part?
Rose?
Is it me, Beth?
No,
Is it how?
it is.
Helen, yeah.
Well, it's a little over 7 years ago that I moved here. And it was during that time, I think, that Rebecca's drug addiction got really bad. And then I met Richard. And I feel like it's all been a journey of me finding myself and letting go of identifying myself through fixing other people or trying to, find out what was wrong with them and help them in some way to validate myself. So I feel like that's, what's coming to an end. And I may end up moving. I don't know what's going to happen right now. But it's a process of letting go, of detaching from all of the attachments that I thought were identifying me, including to you. And, creating healthier relationships, whatever that means, I don't know yet.
Ron, do you have some music for our service today?
No, we do
Is
not.
that
Oh, did you hear that? Amy forgot her harp, and our other musician is at home recuperating. So, we could
chant.
We like to.
Yeah, we could create that together. Do. And a room full of people. Yeah.
Room full of chanting.
Yes.
Something came to me as you were chanting. Todd and Christine, when are they going to be installing your wireless system?
Sometime this week, hopefully, but he hasn't responded back.
Sometime this week, hopefully, but he hasn't responded back yet. Todd's been chasing him.
Well, we can put in the intention that it works.
Absolutely.
Because that would allow us to expand. I think one of the ironies is that I was told that they could not do the wireless at Streamhaven. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, the only reason we can have it is because there's just like one place on the North 40. But this comes even further down the hill and more blocked by the trees from where the tower is. So yes.
So if it is the case that you can get it, and he was pretty sure that you could, but we'll have to keep our fingers crossed about that. It would be ironic that in order to expand, we have to let go of something big. That this is the bigger house and the bigger property and the place that more of us could gather in person, and yet we could not expand. And isn't that interesting? How we have to divest ourselves of things that make us big or look big in order to expand on the inside. And that's the ego, isn't it?
Yeah.
Roz?
Yes.
You'd like to do announcements?
Well, actually, yes, I'd like to invite Ann up to come up and do our announcements today.
They said it couldn't be done, but we're actually going to end the spiritual service on time. We started on time. It's a miracle.
Amazing.
Team and every.
Yeah. What was that, Erica?
We have
All right. I think the first thing coming up is the men's retreat next week. Yes. Yes.
16th.
Sorry. Okay. The men's retreat is on the 16th, and yeah, 2 weeks. And it's about the shifting roles of men basically in society. I know the title is about
if we're not gods, what are we? So I love that title. I'm looking forward to the insights that come from that. I know it will support all of us. And the radio show coming up looks, I mean, so connected to what we were talking about today about letting go of shame, and why is shame such a powerful emotion, and what do we gain, you know, what do we think we're gaining from it, all of that. So I'm looking forward to hearing that one, because I just had a conversation about it last night with my partner about just exploring that, like what kind of arguing about whether not arguing, but right, you're like, talk later. Like, no, it has no use. Yeah. So I'm so glad that the radio show is this Tuesday. That'll be fascinating. And I guess we're going to be doing some processes during the show too about processing that. So I'm looking forward to that. And then the women's group is looking for venues to perform. I don't know how many of you know this, but we had a fabulous experience at the women's retreat. And Tracy left. And we did performances from the autobiography of Mary Magdalene. It was very powerful, very healing, and we're looking to take it on the road. And Irene has been contacting organizations and has already found 2 places that are interested. So we're very excited. And if you have any other venues that you think might be interested, please talk to Irene, or I'm sorry, Annette, also, because they're kind of coordinating that. And is there anything else?
Family program.
Family program. We had our meeting last night. It was wonderful. I want to type up a recap of it for you, Beth, because you don't even know what the lesson was or anything. So I wanted to tell her about it, and yeah, it was wonderful. It really does feel like something has shifted there. Like, and Lynn, I'm so grateful for you, Lynn, co-partner, and just all the participation. And I mean, that's part of my journey. I was thinking that 7 years ago was when I think Beth in a session said something about you should do something with that.
That's
the adapting. What?
That's right. It was at the Benton House.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we started doing. We've done all these different kinds of little events, and it's been a struggle. It's been a long process, but I mean, just last night I felt this like fruition of all of our collective efforts and our perseverance together. And it's a wonderful feeling, because it really feels like it's going now and going places. So you're all invited. Really, it's really for all ages. The new family that came, the mom said, you know, that lesson was for everyone. You know, it was. She felt like she gained a lot from it. So there's some really good work happening there. So that's first. It's one Saturday afternoon, evening a month, and we'll keep you posted on those events as well. So anything else? No. Okay, we're in a nonprofit. Please donate if you can.
Oh, wait, Chris has something.
Okay.
Just wanted to sing happy birthday to Christopher before we go.
What?
Can't hear your words.
Aww. Happy birthday. Yay.
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow? Aw. Wonderful.
I couldn't hear it.
Christopher's birthday.
Oh, the 3rd of February, of course. Yay.
Nice.
Happy birthday.
Yes.
Happy birthday, Christopher. And also, James wanted to remind people that next weekend, of course, is CBC, which means that Saturday is Group Soup Day.
Yeah. I want to do that.
Yeah.
Group supervision day. The Saturday day, like the counselor training. What time is that? 10 to 1 here?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to come to that. Okay. Anything else? Lynn?
When the CBC is in days, Mother's Day or the week?
No, it's not. It's the week after.
It's on the CDC website, the schedule's on there.
Okay, so what about supervision for the counseling? Is that on the day before Mother's Day or the day before?
No, the whole weekend moves. It's the supervision.
Yeah, whatever.
The day before the CBC. And also want to announce that the next women's retreat is going to be, generally speaking, about women and their expression. And so women are going to be invited to come and get some support before, but offer their expression and get feedback not from a quote artistic perspective, but from the emotional perspective, what we see, what we hear, what people are or are not expressing. So it should be great too. We don't have it quite worked up yet, but I just wanted to give you a heads up because you may know women who might be really interested in coming to do that.
Yeah, I've been thinking about mine. I'm cooking up something. Yeah. This week. Great. Okay. Was there anything else? Oh, then so the May, it's like the 10th and 11th, something like that. That weekend, I just saw on my phone. Like the second.
For the CBC?
No. CBC? No, I
No,
was
it's not Tuesday weekend. I'm sorry.
May 11th is the Sunday. That's what I found mine.
No, that's Mother's Day. It was May the week.
Oh, it's moved to the. I don't know when it is.
Yeah, it was so we haven't found our date for women's group.
The schedule's on the CBC website.
Yeah, just check the schedule. It must be right on there. Okay. And we're no nonprofit, so please donate if you can. We have a box in the back. Okay. That's it.
Okay.
Hey, happy birthday, Christopher.
Oh, and the flyers too.
We have flyers for CBC. The CBC is an ongoing program now. You can invite anyone. They can join anytime, not just in the fall. And what was the other flyer? Men's group. Okay.
It's a great flyer.
Men's retreat. Yeah. Okay. Thanks. Bye.
Beth, you gonna close?
How do we normally close? For some reason, I can't remember.
You
Do I close?
Yeah, you do a close.
Okay.
Yeah. But I thought you already did.
I know. Usually she
When
closes
did she
and we do
close?
the song, and it's just over.
We do a song.
Well, we should do a close. I
Yeah.
closed my talk, then we did all of this, and now we should do a close. And it feels like I should not lead that close. It feels like the group, something needs to come from the group for the close.
Tracy Chapman gets on chat.
Evolution.
Okay, it's coming to me. As soon as I put other people, we have gone through the 7-year cycle together, many of us. Some of you came in during that process, but you were going through your own, such as Elizabeth. And I would like us to feel the joy of having survived this time. Because times are not easy. We should congratulate ourselves in a non-egoic way, feel the of satisfaction that we have learned the lessons which are allowing us to move on to the next dreaded cycle. Whatever that is. And to remember, I'd like us all to say together, we are not alone.
We are not.
We could sing that.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
See you at CBC.
Bye.
Love you.
Bye-bye. Love you all.